Rather lads, welcome back to Cossy's Arsenal podcast. Cossy, good morning, afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in all parts of the world. It's a Sunday. I should be checking in with the Sunday transfer roundup. It's been around. This is a long time we've not spoken in around 3 months. Like it's around what 15 hours ever since we last talked. But anyway, how are you guys doing? Make sure you smash a like on the video. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. There's a lot to get into, but we're gonna try to wrap up the week, but also try to give you an update of what is happening. Where I've not been a bit busy, with some other commitments, but here we are back again with Arsenal transfer talk, and let's kick things off with a new bid with for a midfielder, and that is Danilo. Right. So to get into it now, Arsenal have made a bid for Palmeiras midfielder Danilo. That is confirmed. That is confirmed. The bid is 20 million euros. Arsenal really want a midfielder. Fabrizio has actually been come out and also spoken about the fact that Arsenal do want to get in the midfielder. Then he said Bruno Guimaraes really appreciated at the moment. In January, it could be a difficult one. Of course, we're going to try to dive into that to some extent as well. And then Vlhavic as well. I try to give you what is the latest around Dusan Vlahovic. But I've done a video on 99 Sport. If I know around 1,000 of you now have already subscribed to 99 Sport, and I think it's a beautiful video. It's a very, very beautiful video. It tries to compare Vlhavic to all the other targets that we are actually linked with, but then it also just gives you that kind of insight of why Arsenal should go for Dusan Vlahovic, and everything you need to know about Vlahovic, my opinion about him, and my problem with the hype and overhype around the young player. So make sure you check it out. It is called Vlahovic to Arsenal. My problem with Vlahovic's overhype. It's a beautiful, beautiful video, and I'm gonna say there we are very, very close to 1,000. I think only 10 subscribers away from from our first 1,000. So make sure you do join 99 Sports because again for AFCON we're gonna be there, and of course match reactions live we will be there as well. Right, so let's get to the content. Let's start off with Danilo. And look, this is interesting because he's a player that we've not linked with anywhere. Until when Fabrizio actually came out and said Arsenal looking at a midfielder, and there are three names on list at the moment, and then he just carded Bruno Guimaraes. So according to Fabrizio, Arsenal are interested in getting in Danilo, and we're really working on getting in a midfielder as early as January. Then he said something very interesting, and I would love to pick up on this because it's so interesting put out. So he said Arsenal working to sign a new midfielder in January. Bruno Guimaraes, 45 million euros, are currently not being discussed as a target for this month. Right, Arthur Melo on loan, on a loan deal has been discussed, but no contact has been made with Juventus. At the moment, there are three names on the list of midfielders that Arsenal really want to sign. So this is a very interesting twist in terms of who our priorities are and who's going to be joining in in January. I think what is so consistent with Romano is that he's come out 3 weeks ago or around 4 weeks ago, and he said Arsenal will be trying to get in a midfielder, and that has not changed. Arsenal really for a striker, unless an opportunity avails itself. And again, he has spoken about Vlhavic on Twitch in the past 24 hours, and he's given us a very, very interesting turn in there. But in terms of Arsenal getting in a midfielder, he's still very, very consistent with his initial position. He says Arsenal are working to sign a midfielder in January, right? And then he says Bruno Guimaraes at the moment, appreciated but not being discussed as a target for January. So it looks like whichever kind of talks, whichever kind of contact we are having with Bruno Guimaraes and Leon, it's going to be in the summer. It's in the summer, and when you look at targets that we are being linked with, many people still believe Danilo and Dusan will be the player to sit on the bench as Partey starts alongside Bruno Guimaraes, starts alongside any other midfielder that we will get in the summer next season. So there is very, very interesting. It is very, very interesting what is kind of at the moment. So Romano saying that Melo's loan deal has been discussed by the club, but at the moment there is no contact that has been made with Juve. So that is it. And then he says three names that didn't actually put out are being discussed at the moment at Arsenal Football Club in terms of midfielders in January. But then he said, this is what actually came out of a couple of hours ago. Breaking news: Arsenal made an offer, 20 million euros plus 5 million euros in add-ons for Palmeiras midfielder Danilo, who is Brazilian. Looking for a replacement of Thomas Partey. However, Palmeiras do not plan to sell Danilo this month. At the moment, so it's very interesting because again in the last 17 hours we've seen more of this talk around Arsenal and Danilo. I mean, he's a midfielder that I've watched once in my life, and that was today on YouTube. Yeah, I've seen the videos are there already. Of course, you know how fast the internet is and the global village and things like that. But I really can't make an analysis of Danilo at the moment. I've looked at some of his scouting reports, one or two, and then statistics on FBref and SofaScore, and then it shows that he's actually more of he's not more of a central midfielder. He's more of a defensive midfielder. Now that is that is quite interesting. Are we trying to sign a player who is going to play alongside Thomas Partey, or are we trying to sign a player who is going to replace Thomas Partey during the time when he's away, and then will be a backup to Partey? Because it's so interesting with Danilo. One, you look at the price, 20 million euros. That is what Arsenal are looking at in this window. 20 million euros, 25 million euros, loan deals, free deals. I think that is quite the advantage that we want to talk about. That's quite the advantage that we want to actually take in this window. Getting players that can that can just be easy, that can just be advantageous in terms of the situations. But Danilo, again, right from Brazil, is he coming in? Because if you look at him, the way he plays as a player, he's very far away from players like Bruno Guimaraes. He's very far away from players like Jorginho. He's not that intelligent as a player. He's actually rigid. Right, all he does is fight for the ball in the midfield, and that's all. I just feel like he's Western. No, okay, not West, because West is not the word. West not the word really. Because again, if you look at what's coming out of Brazil, he's one of the most highly rated midfielders from there. Actually, his contract has a release clause of 168 million euros. That is crazy. That's absolutely crazy. 168 million euros, because at the moment, what is being done in the world of football is any kind of talent, any kind of player that arrives on the footballing scene, you've got to have those release clauses that are really ridiculous. But 168 million, he's got to be good. He better be good, honestly. So Arsenal have submitted in that bid. However, Palmeiras are not willing to sell in January. Yes, they are willing to sell in the summer. Same thing comes to Lyon. They want to sell in January. I mean, they want to sell in the summer unless an astronomical figure is placed on the table. They're not moved. They're not willing to be moved to sell in January. And I think that is the true face. That is the dimension of January as a window. It's never that easy. It doesn't happen easy. It's always very hard to get signings. It's always very hard to get quality players, because the impact currently in January, those players are impacting impacting, the seasons of their current teams. It's just like when you come for Saka or Martin Odegaard or Martinelli at the moment or Emil Smith Rowe. It's definitely a no. You're never gonna get them in January unless you come back in the summer and then you renegotiate. Right. So in terms of the midfielder, we're looking at two names are now on top. Actually, three, because we're also gonna be discussing Bissouma as well. But Danilo, my opinion, my say about Danilo is we'll get to talk about him. We'll get to discuss the scout reports later. I think in the week we'll discuss some scout reports on Isak, on Vlahovic, on Danilo, and then we'll try to see how good are these guys. And because for me, I don't feel like Arsenal need a defensive midfielder. We have Lokonga, who is really, really conventional in terms of being a midfielder, but also is that kind of hybrid that he can do well with ball distribution, and he can do well with winning the ball back and protecting that back four. And then you have Thomas Partey, who absolutely smashes it when it comes to being that kind of hypocrite in the midfield. Just he just lingers between the two roles, CM and DM. I don't feel like Arsenal need another defensive midfielder. I think Arsenal need another intelligent midfielder. Someone intelligent enough, to give us, that kind of brilliance that players like Jorginho, that players like, Kovacic are giving to Chelsea, the likes of Cazorla. That is why I think Arsenal should be doing that. But if I look at Danilo, he's miles off that. But the good news is, and before we get to the good news, I think I should also say this: Arsenal again have tried to inquire about Yves Bissouma. However, there is no match talk this time. So if you have had stress, if you've suffered from stress and trauma from the Bissouma talk and all the hype, don't worry. This time it is not that. It's not much talk. Look, but Brighton have said that if any club is going to sign Bissouma in January, it's going to take 50 million pounds. They are lying, aren't they? Because I think they know in the summer it's going to be very tricky for them. It's going to be very tricky. And I said it in the summer that deep down, in their hearts, they know the best thing to do is to sell Yves Bissouma in January. That was the best thing for them to do. Sorry, to sell him in the summer. Right now in January, they're going to think about it. Their season currently is so good. I doubt they would love to bring any kind of jeopardy to their squad. They have Bissouma, they have Enoch Mwepu doing well in that midfield. They don't want to let go of anyone before the summer arrives. And then think about it, their problem is scoring goals. So they cannot create a problem, yet they need to solve one problem. I think it would be absolutely crazy if they did that. So Bissouma, 50 million in January. They're trying to scare away clubs, but deep down they're scared that in the summer they might lose him for very, very cheap. He's not going to sign a new contract. He's already told them, I'm not going to be staying here with you. I'm going to be moving on. And I think Arsenal going for Bissouma in January, that would be the worst case scenario for me. Absolute worst case scenario. We've had these debates on this channel. If you've been here for at least some time, right from the summer, we've had these debates: Bissouma or what? Bissouma or players like Arthur Melo. And I've always feel like we have Yves Bissouma. We already, we have a player who plays like Bissouma. Yes, I understand now with all the links coming out and the bids we are making and the steps we are making in the market. I understand that Mikel Arteta might be much interested in getting in that kind of player who's a little bit conservative rather than adventurous. I think that's what he's trying to do. But guys, think about it. If you have Bissouma and Partey, that is a cracker of a midfield, but at the expense of so much. That is what I'm afraid of. It's a good midfield. It's a good partnership, but at the expense of so much. We are missing a lot. We will be missing a lot in terms of creativity, in terms of going forward, in terms of entertainment. Because again, with football, and I think money and VAR, which is also money, an indicator of money in football. That is what they're trying to take away. They're trying to take away the fact that sport is for entertainment. And when I look at the Arsenal midfield and I see Partey and Xhaka, I know it's going to be boring unless Martin Odegaard gets the ball. Xhaka and Partey, they do what they're supposed to do. But you just need that kind of player that adds a little flair. For me, number 8 do that for me very well. Tillemans, if you've seen him, I mean, I just love those kind of dribbles, just like those kind of turns in the midfield. A player who's very, very free. I miss the flair. And I need it, and I definitely need it. And that's why I really back Gabriel Martinelli, because I feel like he's a very different kind of player in terms of what he does and and how he does it in comparison to all the other players. So Bissouma, good player. Do I take him at Arsenal all day long? Absolutely all day long. I think in that area, Declan Rice, Yves Bissouma, Calvin Phillips, they're sensational. They have been absolutely sensational for their clubs. Phillips at Leeds, Bissouma for Brighton. I mean, and if you've really watched Brighton with and without Yves Bissouma, they brought in Enoch Mwepu, and I think the beauty with Mwepu is that he plays a little bit advanced. He plays in that kind of it's not really kind of half 10, but it's the kind of 8 that really loves going forward, and he's so sensational with the ball at his feet. Bissouma, very good with the ball on his feet, but better even without the ball. And that's why I think, like, if you have Yves Bissouma, probably you're going to unlock Thomas Partey. But what I would want though is I'd want Bissouma in the midfield, partnering with someone who's clever, partnering someone who's brilliant. So Bissouma took his back. Brighton 150 million pounds. I think that's the deal we should do in the summer if we want him. Right, he was never a priority in the summer. I don't think he's a priority in January, because Romano came out and said Arsenal looking at something very, very different in terms of a midfielder. Now, this is the man I want if we fail to get Bruno Guimaraes, Ruben Neves, or Renato Sanchez. This is the man I want. That lad is Arthur Melo. Now, according to Romano, like I've told you, Arsenal have discussed the possibility of bringing in Arthur Melo on loan with an option to buy. Of course, I've reported this before, but we've not made contact with Juve. Go for him all day long. Absolutely, all day long. I think, the conservatism is it only helps us. Absolutely. The conservatism only helps Arsenal because it's a young squad. It's a young defense. It's a young back line. We have a young goalkeeper. So when you're a little bit conservative, you don't open up so much. I think Wolves have done it very, very well this season. They have scored 14 goals this season under Bruno Lage, and they have conceded 14. But if you look at how they play, they're so conservative. Yes, they do create the chances, and I think that their lack of scoring is not anywhere close to being attached to lack of creativity. No, it's not. But the chances they score, they create per 90, it shows how conservative they are. It shows they're cautious. It shows they're scared. Okay, they're not scared, but they're scared. Right, they're scared of just opening up and then leaving their back line exposed. If you look at how Martinho and Ruben Neves, Martinho would be that kind of eight that is a little bit positive minded, the Kovacic type, and then Ruben Neves, the kind of player that plays in the 6 but not really very conservative. But when you look at what they do, is they control the ball more. Right, but in terms of releasing, the ball, in terms of creating chances and doing that is their problem. Yes, they control the game. They're gonna. We saw it against Manchester United. If you watch that game, we've not played them this season. That's why I'm really referring to other games. And when we play them, you will see, because it's a midfield battle. We try to control the game as Arsenal, and they do not try to control games, but they do. They definitely control games through Ruben Neves and Martinho. So I think that is what Mikel Arteta is trying to do. He's trying to find those players that can have the ball for longer times, for longer attention. I mean, like for longer, time spans. Like have the ball for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, for 90 minutes if you can. I think Jorginho does it very well. I think Rodri does it well at City. Kovacic doesn't do it because I think Kovacic is so adventurous. But then you think about players like Thiago Alcantara at Liverpool. They get the ball and then they accurately pass it, and then get it back and then accurately pass it. I think that's what Mikel is trying to do. He's trying to bring in a brand of players that will control midfield, don't lose the ball, and things like that. And I think Arthur Melo then would be a problem to Mikel Arteta. Defensive-wise, he is a liability. He's Brazilian. Yeah, he is. Of course, doesn't mean that in Brazil we don't have those defensive midfielders that are really good. They are there. Obviously, we do have a few cases. But when you think about when you think about Arthur Melo and what Mikel Arteta is trying to do, it would be like you know that kind of little drop on a litmus. It either works out or it doesn't work out. And I pray it really, really works out, because if Arthur Melo comes to the Premier League and it doesn't work out, then he just it would be kind of a confirmation bias, and that's what I don't want. I don't want confirmation biases. I don't want a player to come in not conservative, adventurous, then he comes into that comes into that midfield and then just does everything makes everything a mess. I don't really want that. But when I think about Arthur Melo, I'm reminded of Alexander. I'm reminded of Cazorla. I'm reminded of Samuel Nasri. I mean, when you control games, I think you do that. I think Arsenal are really doing that. We see that against City. Our press is good. Our pressures per 90, have increased a little bit. And the rate at which we work, because we have a young squad, we can outwork, we can outrun, we can outmuscle any team in the Premier League. City, they have a decent squad. It's not really old. I think their average age at City should be around 27. They don't have those players that are so old, overboard, but then they only have a few youngsters in the mix. But when you look at how we outworked Manchester City, a team that we know is going to outwork every team in the world at the moment, because that's what City do. They have outworked PSG. We've seen it before in the Champions League, and PSG were helpless. They failed to do it against Chelsea, I think. That's how Chelsea survived. There are only few games in the season when City are at their worst, and it comes when you're really prepared, but also you give a lot more. I think Chelsea did it in the Champions League final. They worked so hard. They were brilliant. It was like they were playing 22 players against 11 for Manchester City. Arsenal did it on New Year's Day. It looked like we're playing like 30 players, right? Until we got that red card. And even when we got the red card, we sat back and we were so we were so organized that we were not leaving spaces. We were not giving chances. We were not giving the ball away. It took a mistake from Robo Holding, heading that ball to Rodri, and then Rodri gets that ball in the penalty area, and it's like, thank you. And of course, that is what City do. They don't make mistakes when they don't need to. Right. So with Arthur Melo, can he improve on our pressures? 100%. Can he? 0%. Can he improve on our press? 100%. Right. So can we get in Arthur Melo? I think we should, but he's not going to be a priority. It's not going to be priority. All sources are indicating that Mikel Arteta wants a player like Jorginho. He wants a player who controls the ball, just caresses the ball all the time, and it's, for me, it's boring. It's absolutely boring. Jorginho's done it last year. Taken Italy to the Euros finals. They won it. Taken Chelsea to the Champions final. They won it, and he's made it to the last three of the Ballon d'Or. I mean, it's quite fascinating how a player like Jorginho made it to that level. And I think it's all about consistency. That is the beauty of such players. Durable, consistent, reliable. Durable, consistent, reliable. Durable, consistent, reliable. That is what they do. They just keep the ball. They just caress it every game. If they don't get injured, you'll definitely see that they are the heart of the team. But how much do they create? Very little. How much do they create excitement, entertainment? 0%. Absolutely 0%. So Arthur Melo, I think he would come in if Arsenal fail to get Gino Wijnaldum, Danilo. Then that is when and Bruno Guimaraes. I think that is when they will think about Arthur Melo, because the other three that we've discussed in this video already, their advantage is they're players that have the ability to pick up the ball in deeper areas, and they're also players that have the ability to keep the ball when they need to, and definitely when they don't need to. I think Melo drops the ball, he'll be losing the ball very, very much, winning it very little. But when he has it, he's a Mesut Ozil. I mean, that kind of deeper player whose eye for goal is sensational as well. So let me know, lads, because this is interesting. Melo, Danilo, or Gino Wijnaldum, because that is where we are now. Bruno Guimaraes in the summer, and it would be good business, definitely. Danilo in January, Melo in January, Bruno Guimaraes in the summer. Good business. I really can't say no. Now, in Brazil, they're saying that Palmeiras fans are pretty annoyed at the fact that Arsenal have only offered 20 million euros for the player, because the player has a release clause of 86 million pounds, not 160 million euros. It is 86 million pounds. Look, I think much of these release clauses are come down to the fact that Brazilian players they are managed through third parties. I mean, their deals are run through third parties. I think that's the reason as why they always have those hefty release clauses. But of course, it also confirms the fact that the player is also good enough. Can he play in the Premier League? Like I said, scout reports coming up starting tomorrow. We'll start with that of with that of Vlhavic, because he's leading the news, obviously. But like I said, check out that video on 99. It just highlights everything I think we need to know as Arsenal fans about Dusan Vlahovic. So make sure you check out the video and also subscribe so that we get to 1,000 subscribers by midnight. Yeah, by midnight. Right. So then Vlhavic as well. We've had a couple of stories coming out while we were away. While I was away, because when I'm away, everyone is away on the channel. So what's been happening? Rano, this is what he said. It is true that Arsenal have approached Fiorentina to negotiate for Vlhavic and are trying now to find a way. They have a good relationship because of Lucas Torreira on loan to Fiorentina with a buy option. So it is a good relationship between clubs. And Romano says that Arsenal are trying to use that advantage that we have that kind of relationship between us and Fiorentina. And I think it's something that clubs do always use. I think we've got so many players ever since Jovino Cossy from Lille. From the time of Jovino, we brought in Gabriel Magalhaes, and then we've also brought in Nicola Pepe as well. So, along those lines, Arsenal looking at getting in Vlhavic. I think Romano is pointing in that direction where we've been speaking. We've been speaking about whole week. Total agreement between two clubs to sell, but player not yet very, very excited. But what is going to excite you is what I've heard. And I'm definitely going to quote it like I've had. But before that, the English media, The Athletic actually did confirm, but Goal.com, and this is Charles Watson, and I truly respect Charles, but I think he's very, very far behind in this deal. Romano has been behind his caught up. And I feel like Charles Watts, whether it's true or not, but he's so behind. This is what he's put out. He said, "I haven't heard that Arsenal's Vlahovic interest is confirmed at all. Previously, the club sources have always distanced themselves from the Vlahovic staff, but there is no smoke without fire." Look, this would be a discouragement or a setback, but it is not. It's absolutely none. I feel like the Athletic are so in front. The Italian media are so in front. Charles Watts and Goal.com for the first time today. I'm gonna troll him, my man. I can't troll him because I'm in no position. But I feel like he's a little bit behind. I feel like that the truth is the interest is there. The interest is there, and he ends this statement with very well, and he says there is no smoke without fire, right? I think he tries to bail himself out there. But I don't feel like I really don't feel like he's right in this one, right? Yes, club sources, that's what they've always done. They've always distanced themselves from these rumors. It happened with James Maddison until Romano came out and said number one target is Odegaard. Second priority would be James Madders. So it doesn't look like Charles Watts is writing this deal off, but it's just a little bit behind. But in our attempt to lure the player, this is what Arsenal are trying to do, and I would definitely want to read this to you, very, very, very crystal clear. Because it looks like we are offering a huge offer to the player. And I wish I could just see that. Right, where did I read? Just a moment. Okay, here we are. Right, so Arsenal, this is according to Mambo official. They're saying Arsenal have offered Dusan Vlahovic 10 million euros per year and are convinced they can close a deal for the striker. Juventus are out of the race to sign the player. Interesting. Absolutely interesting. Very, very interesting. We have offered Vlhavic 10 million euros per year, and it looks like Juve out of the race. Of course, we discussed it yesterday in that video that had very, very, very low audio. I mean, very, very sorry, for that. I didn't intend to, but we discussed it, and we were saying that Juve's priority was never Vlhavic. They're interested because of the numbers, and I've spoken about that on 9, and I said the numbers of the player are staggering. They're absolutely staggering. So you do not actually you do not blame a player. You do not blame anyone for coming in. All odds in for Vlhavic because his numbers are so good. But then I said Juve's priority is not Vlhavic. They want someone else. So 10 million euros a year. How much could that be? 10 million euros a year, is that around 100,000 per week? I think it could be close to 100,000 per week in terms of euros. I think that's good money. I think the offer can always be raised. I think this is what Arsenal are doing is place the 10 million euros on the table and try to see if there's going to be if there's going to be a response, because it's kind of a bait. Can they take the response? I mean, can they take the bait? Is there going to be a response? Because at the moment, the agent is still very, very negative. So we're just waiting for that kind of response after putting in the bait. But much more about this we will discuss later after the game and the match reaction. I want to say thank everybody for tuning in. Around 200 people tuning in right now. It's Sunday, and always Sunday is an easy day. Etienne Man says, I'm Etienne from Uganda, and Bruno. Jem says, hi Cossy, we really need Vlhavic quickly, otherwise lose him. At least we need 3 players. And then FR says, Cossy, you are a machine. I'm not a machine, really. I'm not a machine. Oh, Emmanuel says, Cossy, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you. How are you doing? Famous says, what is the latest on Dusan? Is it a done deal? If not, what is the possibility? Are we close? I think if you ask me about the possibility of this deal, I'm going to say very, very likely. Very likely. It's one of those deals that just turn into positive press, from utterly negative to absolutely positive, right? So I think it's one of those. So I'm going to say very, very likely. In January, look, there's so many impediments, but the good thing is that the agreement between the player and between the two teams is there. So you never know. Simon says, hey Cossy. Anu says, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Anu, and thanks for watching that video on 99 Sport. While it was premiering, I did see you there as well. Alan's Fashion ZG say, hey Cossy. Kamara says, happy Sunday, Cossy. Hope we will win this match today. Definitely we will. We'll be here for the match reaction. Yusuf says, big up Cossy. Dan says, I hope we are going to win. Someone says, I'm watching the video. Cossy say, Anu says, Cossy, you're doing you are doing a good job. I'm watching you on 99 Sport at the same time as this channel. So lovely. Oh, you're watching the same videos, the 2 videos simultaneously. That is brilliant. Big up Cossy. That is Stephen. Travis says Sambi is not Albert Sambil Konga is a defensive midfielder. I mean, if you want to believe it, believe it. He's a defensive midfielder. Right then, lads. I'll speak to you. Right, that is the Sunday wrap up. I'll take a rest. Then I'll speak to you in the match reaction after that game. We're playing at 8, so we should be speaking after 9:45. I think 9:45 we'll be here. So after the game, make sure you do tune in. We'll be here for the match reaction. Why not? And then later at 10 p.m., we'll come back with what is happening around our midfield. See you then. Anywhere you go,